Hi, everyone. Welcome to Speech Goods, a podcast where we showcase awesome SLPs doing awesome traditional and non-traditional SLP things. Myself and the guests on the show are here to talk about the goods, the bads, and the untamable parts of ourselves and our SLP careers, and how, despite the challenges of everyday life, have just done the dang thing, loving what we do. I'm your host, Danny Augustine. I went from burnt out, dissatisfied with my SLP job, to dusting off my big girl pants, sprinkling some determination in my 20-cent coffee, and starting my own debt-free private practice. Now, I love my work and career and wouldn't trade it for anything else. It was support and wisdom from others around me that helped me refine my why. In the show, I hope you find support and wisdom of your own. Okay, friend, seriously, I'm so excited right now. I had the amazing privilege to get to have a great conversation with the one, the only speech dude, otherwise known as Chris Wanker. But come on, speech dude's like the coolest name ever. Chris is an enthusiastic school-based SLP and nationally acclaimed presenter who loves to share innovative ideas to help older autistic students. He is the author of Speech Language Technologist: What's New in Technology to Save Time and Accelerate Therapy Outcomes. And he's also the creator of the Ultimate Tech Course for SLPs. Chris is a prominent thought leader in the field of speech pathology and known in social media as Speech Dude, the one and only, of course. Chris motivates and entertains fellow educators and clinicians through his humorous and inspiring posts and videos. Okay, so in getting to talk to Chris, like you can really just, you see it on his face, you hear it in his voice. He is just such a kind and genuine person and is such a light. We get into a little bit of his background and how he used to be in a band. Like, seriously, I wish I was that cool, but I'm not. We talk about the importance of building relationships and working at relationships and this idea of growth mindset. We even get into some nitty gritty about his desire to create speech materials and speech therapy materials for high school students. We talk about specializing and niching down. He's got that really amazing Ultimate Tech Course for SLPs that he's coming out with. And we just get into some really great conversations about taking opportunities and living a life full of joy. We get into some conversations about money and the role that money plays in our lives. And you're just absolutely going to love this episode with Chris. It was so much fun. Again, he's such a light. So let's go ahead and do this. Hello, Chris. How are you doing today?
I am doing amazing today. It's been an awesome weekend. Weather has been amazing. So that leads for everything being legendary for an upcoming week.
Yes, and you're up in the mountains, which I'm jelly because I'm in 100% humidity in a very flat southern Louisiana.
It doesn't sound as fun, but life is still good. Life is still great.
Oh yeah. Like the humidity makes us sweat a lot more, and I know it's going to help me not have as many wrinkles when I'm older. So like we're just going to roll with it.
You know what? Exactly. There's always ways to find the positives, and plus it gives you more of an idea to jump in the pool more frequently, right?
Exactly. Right. Oh, and
Yeah.
I'm just, oh, go ahead.
No, that's what I was going to say. Time to jump in the pool. We just got out. It's humid. Let's get back in.
Well, like I was literally, my poor husband was fixing our fence and I walked outside and like it literally looks like he had just jumped in the pool because of how much he was sweating. I was like, oh my goodness, like you need to hydrate, boo. Well, Chris, I am so excited to have you on. And I told you this like before we hit the record button. Not only like you're clearly, everybody knows who Speech Dude is, first of all. Like I'm still a little like celebrity shy right now. I'm trying like to play it cool, if you haven't noticed. But anyways, so excited to have you on. You just have such a very interesting background. Everybody just heard your bio and all that fun stuff. And I told you this earlier, how what we think of as like the stereotypical SLP with our cardigans and pearls and type A and, you know, everything's got to be in its perfect little box. Like you are literally the opposite in like every single way of what is the stereotypical SLP. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And you work it so well. So I cannot wait to hear from you. So I'm going to kind of stop talking a little bit, and kind of tell us a little bit about what makes you and your SLP journey unique.
Gosh, yeah. There's a lot. Thank you, by the way, for all those kind words. That's awesome. We, gosh, my journey has been an interesting one, but what makes me unique, I think, is my background, really my history, of what led me to where I'm at now. And so, I played in a band back in high school and throughout my beginning years of college. That gave me some confidence and some public speaking awareness. Um, and, never thought that down the road I would be, standing and speaking to others like in the context that I do now, but it all kind of lined up. It's funny because when I got into education and teaching, I had a supervisor at the college level, and the supervisor had told me, she said, "Hey, you know what? I don't think education's for you. I can tell because of the way you look." And I went, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Like, so she basically, so I was judged based on just my appearance alone, because at that time I was still playing in a band, so my hair was a lot more wild than it is now. And it was one of those things where it set me up about the level of effort that we put into our work is going to determine the outcome of everything, right? And so I've always done everything 110%. So even with my supervisor, it was like my work became my life, always 100% with whatever I put into it. So I guess my uniqueness, back to your question, is that yeah, being in a background in a band, being a male SLP, all of these little things kind of led up to making me speech dude. So
I love
it
it.
all works out.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay, so a lot of you who have been listening to the show, or if you haven't been listening to the show, welcome, welcome. How you doing? We talk a lot about sort of issues facing the field, and sort of like there's lots of cultural things that we really think about when we think of SLP field, blah, blah, blah. Imposter syndrome is a really, really big buzzword right now within the field. How did you and your background, like, as like you said, like you were able to gain confidence in this very non-SLP way, like you got up in front of people and you played music. How did that really shape you into kind of becoming who you are in the SLP space?
Right. You know what? So being in a band is one of those things where there's a couple different roles of that. Obviously, one of them is to play the music, but the other one's to interact with the crowd and really get them engaged. That aligns directly with speech therapy, right? It's one of those things where we come in there and we have to be goofy at times. As you know, in the private practice, working with your little guys, it's sometimes we have to do headstands and we have to get down on the floor and we have to act like we're a lion or a giraffe, and we have to blow bubbles. And you know what? And it's one of those things where that's how it was pre-speech therapy for me, or being a speech pathologist, was entertaining the crowd. What are some things that I can say to get them going? What kind of moods can I create with the music? And yeah, and so all roads led to who I am now. So it all really was a stepping stone for positive growth. The other thing too that was really cool with my background is that in high school, I went to Upland High School. That's kind of how I know Dave Pilon,
Yeah.
through
Shout out,
Upland.
Dave.
Shout out to Dave and Sean. And so, yeah, there was a program called Career Connections, and that whole program was launched the year when I was a junior. So for my junior senior year, was all about learning how to infuse our curriculum with technology. So I learned how to develop websites and do coding and all of those things back with HTML before all these new programs came out where you can just drag and drop things. And so I was developing websites for other bands. And so, yeah, I mean, pre-speech pathology, I had the skill set of how to use Corel Draw and Adobe Photoshop and Dreamweaver and all of these programs long before I got into education. So, you know, um, I think as we get into our conversation today, you'll see that, yeah, that's kind of how I got into the technology part of things, which makes me unique in itself as well, because, speech pathology is one of the fields where when you're in grad school, we don't really go take electives for how to code websites. Our electives are you could choose sign language, or you can choose to specify in more or praxis or whatever it might be, you know. So it's kind of a cool thing that I had for my background. Yeah, so all of those things just kind of tied into each other as they should.
Yes. How
You
did you
know?
go from like, because, and I'm just being stereotypical here, but like, I know usually that computer engineering mind is very different from like the type of person that would go into education or that would go into speech pathology. What made you kind of go towards that direction? And also, can you tell us a little bit about, like, I know you did education, and then did you do like undergrad in education, and then you decided to get a master's in speech? How did all that work?
Yeah, so during my early college years, I was going to Cal State Fullerton, um, and while playing in the band, I wasn't sure if we were going to be the next Blink 182 or not. So I said, I better have a backup plan here. It turns out we weren't the next Blink 182. So it's a good thing I had a backup plan. But no, I had a passion my whole life growing up with parents in education. They're both educators. And so, yeah, I went and I pursued a master's degree in special ed with emphasis at the time, which was referred to as mild, moderate disability. So, yeah, my first couple years was as a special ed teacher. I was seeing the speech pathologist at that time pull students from classes. And it was funny because I was like, you know what? What is this guy? What is his job? Because there was a male SLP there. He's only pulling out 2 to 3 students and working with them. And here I am teaching a whole class. I want to know how to really get specific and work with some of these students who had social challenges and other needs. And so, I shadowed him for a few days, and the rest is history. I said, that's it. That's my passion. That's what I want to do for life. That's what I want to do. Is I want to help serve others, help the students out. And so I went back to college and got a separate master's degree in communicative disorders. And so it was really nice to have the background with writing IEPs and working with the field of special education first. Gave me a solid foundation. So yeah, it was really cool. I have some good experience with working in the class and understanding multiple seats at the IEP table. So that was really a helpful thing for me.
So did you just say like, I want to do that, so I'm gonna go do that for that? So like, is that how that kind of worked for you? Just like, yeah, let's go.
Honestly, it wasn't any hesitation at all. I said, that's the field that I want to get into. And how do I pursue it? What colleges are going to accept me? How do I get in? What kind of, prerequisites do I have to have? And then it was just all in. I took all of my chips and I just went all in. And I said, here we go. There's no looking back. And I think that's what you have to do if you have a passion on anything, with whatever it is. It's like, have passion with what you do, because if you have passion with what you do, then you're going to build that confidence. You're going to find your own character within that scope and really make a difference in so many different ways. So yeah, really cool stuff.
I really, and I want you to dive into that a little bit more, because I really admire people like that. My husband is like that. I am learning to be more like that, of just this. And I know a lot of DMs that I get from other SLPs, we get kind of stuck in this like decision making analysis paralysis of like, well, we weigh the cost and benefits, and do I want to do this, or what niche should I pick in my private practice? Should I sell my stuff on TPT? Like, how, I love that perspective of just like, oh, like I'm just going to go all in and go for it. How can you tell us about that mindset? And especially when you're going all in without or with, you tell me, a fear of failure, or not working out.
I love that mindset too, right? Because it's one of those things where along the journey, you're going to hit some barriers and some road bumps, and you're going to fail at times. So I know, fortunately, with that situation, with going all in and making a career change, I knew that, hey, if for whatever reason this doesn't work out and I don't like it, then I can get back into teaching because I had loved teaching. And that was the most challenging part was I already had a passion for making an impact with working with students. I had already enjoyed going to work every day and working with a large group of students. So there was that feeling of apprehension to make a career change. But I think making that risk and being a risk taker and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go for it because I feel that this might be more of my scope and niche down even more," then that's what I was going to do. It's really that's kind of how that whole mindset though is how I create my products on Boom and Teachers Pay Teachers. It's like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it with 100% focus. I'm not going to do it with I'm not going to half-ass anything, right? I want it to come out and I want it to be great. And that's how it was with the world of getting into grad school. It's like I'm going to put in all I got. I'm going to do my best. And then I got hired, and along the way, that's what I continue to do is what can I do to make therapy more effective and the best for my students, you know? And that really helps me out and it helps everybody out. That helps the world out, right? Everything is a chance to do and be our best. That's huge, right? And that's what this chance was. It was like, all right, speech pathology, here I come.
I
So
love
worked out.
it. My name is Chris, and here I am.
Here
Take
I
me.
am. I'm here to stay. That's right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So,
So yeah, that's it. Was just along this whole journey has always been putting in my best with whatever it is that I do, because those are going to be how I define myself. So when I write a report for speech, when I create a Boom card on Boom Learning, or I show up to an IEP meeting, I'm going to do it as best as possible because that's going to be representative of who I feel I am. That's where I get my confidence. That's where I get my character from. And then that's going to shine in all other areas of my life, not just with work, but with my ability to connect with others and my relationships and all of those things, family. So, yeah.
so how do you do that? Like, I love that. Like this idea of putting in, like, I'm always gonna show up, do what I can, like to show up as my best. But how do you do it without this constant? Because I know a lot of people in the SLP space have this constant like fear of failure in the back of their head. And there's this idea of, well, I tried my best, but was my best good enough? But you even mentioned a second ago how like, if you know that you gave your 100%, like that's where your confidence comes from. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? How you just clearly everyone has a fear of failure, I'm sure, but you freaking do the dang thing. Like that's really all I can say.
You know what? And that's the only way that we can grow, right? It's the times that we do fail. And those are the times that we've learned. I can tell you that getting into public speaking is a thing where most people are like, nope, I don't want to be a presenter. I don't want to stand in front of people and speak or whatever it is. And it's like, you got to face that fear. We got to go towards it. And you really think about the idea of any time that we've done anything in life that we went towards when we were afraid of it, what was the outcome if we didn't succeed, if we did fail? Did we die? No, we didn't die. So if we didn't die, then we've learned from it and then we grow from it. And so I think that's an important reminder. I think actually the opportunities where we do fail are a good chance for us to remind ourselves that if we have failed, that's fuel for growth in the future. That's what it is. Really, it's like failure is growth in wolves' clothing. That's it right there.
Oh, I love that. Taking notes. Failure is growth in wolves' clothing. And you know what's so interesting? So I'm actually taking a course right now to help me launch my course that I'm working on now. And that's one thing she, at the beginning of the course, she talks about entrepreneurs, right? Like that's like the big, entrepreneur. Like honestly, Chris, don't judge me. I still really have to think about it when I spell it. but I still really got to think about it.
I know, I'm same here.
So no judgment. But that was one thing she said. Like, she started out the whole course with 10 characteristics of entrepreneurs. And one thing that she said, that really resonated with me, and like, it's exactly what you're saying, is that they never, when something doesn't work out, or, failure, like the big, like failure, like this big word that we're so afraid of because we're so used to being, good at things, is just an opportunity to change something. Like when entrepreneurs fail, that just means that they need to change their approach or they need to do something differently. It doesn't mean that you're no longer valuable or that your materials are no longer valuable or that what you're putting out there is not worth people looking at. Because I think that's a big part of it too, is like when you have a business, like you putting your materials out there, you being up in front of people, playing your music, you're putting a piece of yourself out there.
Right.
It really, and it's, if you've never put a piece of yourself out there, everybody's got their baggage they carry around from childhood. Like I was super fat as a kid. So like there's all, there's all that stuff from childhood. Right. But being able to put a piece of yourself out there, and then if it doesn't work out, that's not necessarily a reflection like you're terrible, you're not worthy,
Right. No, absolutely. There's a show on Apple TV called Ted Lasso. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
It's hilarious. You would love it. But anyway, he's a soccer coach, and one of the players, they have this big game, but a player makes a mistake and it led to the goal of the other team. And he gets all down on himself. He cannot get over it. And so Coach Lasso calls him to the side and he says, "Hey, you know what the happiest animal on the planet is?" And he says, "What?" And he says, "It's a goldfish." You know why it's a goldfish? Because it's got a 10-second memory. And I just love that, because when we do fail, what ends up happening sometimes is that we stick with that failure and we don't get over it. It's like, hey, you know what? Get over that. Like, move forward. We move on. All of us are going to maybe send an email we shouldn't have, or text the wrong thing, or post something. We're like, dang it, I wish I could have reworded that. Or we try to launch a course and then it didn't succeed on the first initial attempt, or whatever it is. It's like, hey, you know what? Now we move forward. Be a goldfish. I just love that, because it's something that I always remind myself, if I don't succeed at something, then just don't get stuck on it for days.
And have you ever, it was within the last couple of months, I was having a conversation with someone, and you know how like a cow ruminates, like they chew, what is it? Like they chew on the cud and then they swallow it and then they vomit it back up to keep chewing on it over and over again.
Right.
That's if anybody out there is eating, you're welcome. But that's what I think of. That's what I start to think about, is like, if you just sort of like marinate in this, like being like pissed off and insecure, then like, that's what you're going to soak up, is that.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. If you sit around like that, and then because all of those thoughts and that whole pattern can start to dwindle and pull you down,
Yes. How do you, you clearly like have a really great perspective and great mindset. How do you protect that, I guess? Because it's not just like, I woke up like this, I was born like this. Like, how do you sort of protect that for yourself?
Okay, so I got this from a guy named Sharma. He wrote a book called The 5 a.m. Club. And so it's funny, because when we think about, keep staying positive, and we think about growth mindset and what do we want to do with, moving forward when things don't work out. And there's this other component that goes along with it, which is you can't just sit around all day listening to podcasts and reading books and watching TV shows on growth mindset and being positive and think that that's going to be the solution. That's just such a myth, because it's the same reason. If you go to a large seminar and you saw Tony Robbins, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so positive this year. And then like the next week you find yourself being like down and out and bummed out, depressed, or upset with everybody. And you're like, well, but I just saw this guy and I was fueled up and I have this growth mindset info. The other parts are really important too. There's not just the growth mindset, there's the health set. So you have the mindset, you have the health set. So every morning I'm up at the crack of dawn. I do push-ups and sit-ups, and I ride my beach cruiser around for a little bit while baby's sleeping. I give myself opportunities to eat healthy. So when I see something now don't get me wrong, it's not all the time. I will have some unhealthy food as well, but for the most part, I work on the food that I eat is going to be the energy that I'm going to get, and the energy that I'm going to get is going to be the mindset for the day. So that's one part of it. Then there's the other part of it, that's the soul set, which is how do I connect with others, and what am I doing to help others? Am I serving the community? Am I living my life to help other people? And so that's another part of it as well that really helps out. So there's just a lot more than just the growth mindset that I like to practice to keep me going. Daily meditations is a big one that I used to think was, just hearing the word I thought was cheesy in the past. And I learned that was like the outcome of my ability to maintain my cool and my calm, and to all of those things, So yeah, to answer your question, it's a lot more than just the growth mindset or being someone who's born with the glass half full type thinking. It's a lot, And in addition to that, it is some of those things where I do the things that I put into my life, such as the people who I surround myself with, the books that I read. They're going to be things that help me out in all of those domains, my health, my thinking pattern, my belief system, things like that. This is so important for your listeners. I have to share that the success, whether it's the financial success or the success within the work field and connecting with others, has a lot to do with the people we surround ourselves with. And so I rarely am on Facebook anymore, because I'll get onto like a forum and then I see the comments being made, and it's like, oh my gosh, if I read this every day, then my thinking and feeling towards things is going to deplete itself. And then and I don't want that. Like, I don't want to get on that side of things. So that, like, the people I follow on TikTok and Instagram are going to be what comes up in my mind, because that's what I see. You know what I mean? So that's so huge. And so what can you do to say, hey, who are some people that are solid groups of SLPs that are positive, or that are go-getters, or that have grit and determination? A lot of those people are within the state organizations. And so, like, for you guys in Louisiana, you have your own speech and hearing association. What is it called? LISHA?
Yes, actually. Good guess. Yes.
LISHA. It sounds like a word you would say after you ate like a molten lava cake. That was LISHA.
I was thinking like a chant, like LISHA. We could do either.
Yeah, I love it. But so within your state associations, there's a lot of key people that, are the people who are go-getters, the people who advocate for better pay or for a better work environment. Those are the people who we surround ourselves with. That's such a big one that oftentimes we look past, and so that's been a helpful thing for me, is being part of my state association. Matter of fact, Jessie Ginsburg, my girlfriend right now, I met her through our state association. She was a director in one county and I was a director in another, and that's where we met. But she's one of those people who I want to be around every day. And I'm like, hey, you know what? It's one of those synergistic things where, 1 + 1 = 3. So yeah, we love that. That's our fuel. The people we hang out with, the positive influences, the people that remind ourselves to say, hey, get out there and start a business or start an online course or do this, and you've got this. You know what I mean? Or you just they push you. I love that.
Yes. Like being your cheerleaders, like that is, they say, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most. And think about who were the 5 people that you hang around the most, especially just as, a lot of us, we're in adulthood. A lot of us have kids, spouses, jobs. If you have a side business, like there's a lot of things pulling at your time, and there's a lot of things pulling at your attention. And so being very picky and very intentional about who and what I'm going to give that to, because like and that's something I've had to learn even within the last year, is just how valuable your time is. And I think like having to like charging my full rate for my services, all the way from, not really hanging out with people who they just drain me and like I feel worse after I hang out with them, but understanding and valuing your time and recognizing that your time is where you spend your time, who you spend your time with, what you spend your time watching and absorbing is really, you are what you think about. And if all you're thinking about is drama and negativity and blah, 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 then that's what you're going to become. And that's what you're going to exude.
No, that's totally true. Yeah, you're right. There's an author by the name of Sincero, and she wrote a book called You Are a Badass. And that was, if I think it's from that, which is your thoughts become beliefs, your beliefs become your actions. And then that is essentially the outcome of that. And so it's totally true, right, with what you were saying. It's funny too, because if there was one of the biggest life lessons that I have learned in the past few years, it's exactly what you said. Who are the 5 people you hang out with? And the most, and if one of them is not the best influence or a Debbie Downer constantly bringing you down, then you want to have limited association with that person. You want to distance yourself. It's funny because it's the idea or the principle of when you have a bucket full of crabs, one crab tries to get out to escape and the other crabs go after that. This is true. They go after and they try to pull them down. And that's what will happen is if you notice, if you've had a group that you've associated with over a long period of time and you want to continue growing, but they're not going to grow anywhere, they're going to do their best to pull you down. And it's like, you got to do your best to get out of that bucket because the crabs will grab you. Don't let that happen. Yeah, get out of that bucket quickly. It's a bad place to be in,
Yes. And you have to do something to get out. And I think that's really, it's so easy to be passive about things, to just sort of let, this is just who I've always hung around with, or this is what I've always done, or this is the job that I've always had, or, this is how I've always dealt with my money, or whatever it is. But to really better yourself, you have to seek it out. Like, I love how you said, I have actually had this conversation before, where it's like, well, I don't really get to talk with any other SLPs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, have you reached out to anyone? Have you tried to make those connections, especially even with social media? Guys, if you cannot find like a quality SLP community in your own community, like we have the interwebs. Like, I'm in Louisiana. What state are you in, Chris?
I'm in California.
Yeah, you're in California, and probably not nearly as hot as I am right now. But communicating, but you have to put yourself, again, you have to be able to put yourself out there, and reach out and form those relationships.
Yeah, no, you absolutely do. And that's what I was mentioning earlier is that sometimes we go, okay, well, I know that to be the case, but now how can I seek it out in meeting people and again, like the state associations and the organizations within the community and, getting involved that way is a big way. But along the lines of what you said too, yeah, you could actively seek out those people on social media, and it's one of those things too, where we also wean out the certain accounts that don't have the most positive things to say, those are the things that we have to try and get away from. It's like, nope, I don't like that vibe. I'm out.
Yes. Like, okay, I don't know if you've experienced this, and I was actually having this conversation yesterday. There's a lot of TV shows I cannot watch because I can't watch. People love Games of Thrones, whatever the heck it's called. Yeah. People love that show. But you can like that show, you do you. But it depresses me. Like the backstabbing and the whispering. I'm just this isn't how things should be. I cannot watch that show.
Oh my gosh. You're exactly right though. I don't want to, although it's been out for a couple of years, there was I'm not going to do a big spoiler alert, but there was an episode towards the end of one of the seasons where something completely dramatic happen. And it was like one of those things where if you watch that at night, usually the shows that we watch like that, what you're saying, and like that specific scene was it like I went to bed, I couldn't sleep, and I woke up and it was on my mind, and I was like, oh my gosh, the TV shows I'm watching are literally making an impact on my day. Because I was like, I can't believe that happened last night on the Game of Thrones.
Okay, we'll stop.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody, but there was like one of those things where I was like, I can't believe that happened.
I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. But yeah, like you have to know, yes. And you have to know how all that stuff impacts you. And everyone's different. Like my best friend, she had to completely get off of Facebook because it was really, really, really upsetting her. Like, especially when like I think it was like around like presidential election time, and you know, everyone's always super nice to each other during those times. So she had to just like completely delete her account for a little bit.
Oh, it could trigger you, but you really have to get into the idea that that you can't let things like that get to you. There's like one comment that's negative, but everybody else is being positive about something.
Mm-hmm.
Then, yeah. And again, you got to be a goldfish. I did a video not all too long ago about, you know, this story about a principal, you know, bringing a $20 bill and crumbling it up, throwing it on the ground. And then the end story was, hey, you know what? Who wants this $20 bill? And the staff still says yes. And he says, well, the $20 bill hasn't lost its value, even though it's been stomped on and this and that. And you may have felt that the last school year was like that, but your value still remains the same. So continue knowing who you are, right? But then I got a couple comments of, oh, this is toxic positivity. And it's one of those things where I'm like, well, no, not this particular thing, but people are just ready to try and shut you down. They want to shoot at you. They want to shoot the arrow at you, right? It's like the highest and most positive eagle flying out of the pack is the one that's going to get shot down the first, but you try to avoid it. So for me, it's like, I get a lot of inboxes that are comments that were, it's just like, oh my gosh, really? So for me, I don't even pay attention to those. Most of the time I just delete them, because it's like, hey, if you don't like this content or you don't like what my message is, then by all means, you unfollow me.
Right.
You know, but I'm not going to let it be one of those things where I'm going to reply to it and then it's going to be on my mind and then I can't go to sleep at night. I don't have time for that. And when that happens, it takes away two things. It takes away my energy and it takes away my power, and I don't want that. A lot of these things I'm saying, by the way, are from Jessie. She always says, Chris, you know, by thinking about that, it drains your energy and your power. And I'm like, I'm going to use that on a podcast one of these days.
Yeah. Hey, you
steal that from you and use it. No, but
you credited her. You credited her though, so it's all good, Jessie.
Give her credit. Yep.
So I love your mindset. I love it. I love it. So let's like go back a little bit to like you and your specific journey. So you were a special education teacher, you went into speech pathology masters, and then you eventually started Speech Dude. Like you started this business. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like going from just like, I'm just going to my day job as an SLP, kicking butt, helping kids, communication, and then going to, I'm going to start a business and Instagram, selling products, stuff like that.
Yeah. You know, that's, that like was an interesting and transformative type part of my life, because that hasn't been all too long. I mean, I've had my Instagram handle for quite some time. I've presented for quite some time, but never as Speech Dude. And it wasn't until maybe about, I want to say 2 to 3 years ago at most, where I started posting a lot of me working with students and showing the firsthand experience. And then people started saying, hey, I like this kind of content, right? So I was putting out some video of working with the students. And then it just started getting this rippling effect of gaining followers. And then rather than me just using my Chris Winger name, I said, you know what? I'm just going to get a mascot going, and I'm going to get this kind of idea that that's my brand. Like, I'm not going to be Chris Winger. I'm going to be Speech Dude. And that's going to be representative of everything I do. And then, so that's just been within the past 2 years. And then, you know, it just keeps moving forward in a positive way, because over time I've had to say, okay, I've got to niche down to what do I really want to focus on? And what am I passionate about most, you know? And so I do a lot of silly videos on TikTok and Instagram, but beyond that, when I do things and create content and sell things on Boom and Teachers Pay Teachers, it's done with intention of targeting older autistic students because that's who I work with most, and that's been my passion. So I literally put my all into the things that I do on those, whether it's a webinar or presentation or a product, because that's my passion. And honestly, the reason why I do that, and I chose that niche audience, is because there's such a need for it. Speech pathology and the field over generations have really been limited on resources that were available for older students, but also the resources that have been available are just not what our kids want in 2021. Like, we're in 2021, we need to be having activities that talk about social media and text messaging and TikTok, and we need to have things that talk about current TV shows and not shows from 2005 and all of those things. And so that's kind of how I really honed in to where I'm at now. It really helps me out too, because because the Speech Dude brand, I should say, that's what it is. It's to get out there to make an impact on the lives of the students who I've honed in on, which are the older autistic students, and to help SLPs out. Like, hey, I want to go watch his webinar, his presentation, and for my hope is that no matter what they see or purchase or whatever it is, that it provides value for them. That's really important to me. So yeah, I mean, yeah, just it's kind of gone down the Speech Dude road of social media as well, which has been fun. Now, as we know, Instagram has been going, oh man, TikTok. And I said this at a presentation a year ago, but TikTok has now taken over and dominated the social media market. So Instagram recently said, hey, we're no longer a photo app. We're going to be, infusing a lot of things, but the video is going to be the big thing now. So Speech Dude is going to have a heck of a lot of video coming out.
Yes, adapting.
Yeah. It's going to be so fun though, because I love that. I'm visual. I need to see fun videos. So that's where we're going to be at. It's all video. Right?
I love it. And so when you started Speech Dude, like, did you just start your Instagram account you started your Instagram account using your name. You weren't officially Speech Dude. And were you just kind of like, I'll just post a few things. And then you were just like, once people started following you, were you like, oh, I guess people like it? Like, how did that work? Because I know some people, they don't set out to grow an audience. Some people do set out to grow an audience. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know what? I think in that journey of getting to switch from it just being a Chris Winger, but my handle was Speech Dude, to a whole blown, hey, now I have a website and a course coming out, and I've got product out there, and I'm doing webinars and traveling and speaking. Yeah, it was to be intentional with a lot. Well, I can't say that because I'm still kind of across the board on some of my posts, but it was one of those things where my posts were having other people in mind. It wasn't like, hey, here I am, I'm an SLP in the Caribbean on the beach and things like that. It was, hey, check out this post. You're going to find it funny or you're going to find it valuable. And, I started doing that several years ago. And I think that's really where it had taken off was, all right, every time this guy posts something, I'm getting something out of it. Maybe it was a laugh. Maybe it was a website to go to. Maybe it was something that was just inspirational. But whatever it was something that people that they could find value for themselves, and so, yeah, so that's kind of how it ended up where it is now. And it's been a lot of fun, but yeah, I mean, lately it's been a big shift with social media and Instagram Reels becoming so prominent and just a lot of stuff now. So yeah. we'll see where it goes.
I mean, but you clearly like you've adapted. And I really want to highlight that point that you just said about growing like being on social media, and the fact that like you've clearly been able to attract an audience. And it's because it's not about you. It's not, look at me,
Right,
look at me, I'm so cool, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's I want to provide you with value. Like everything I put out is not putting it out so that you look at me. Everything I put out is putting out so that you find value from it. And I think that's a very wise way to look at things, like especially for someone who is, I mean, you are used to sort of being in front of people, like you're used to being, you know, before you became a speech pathologist, you were used to being in front of people, like in a band and things like that. And I think people assume that that's how it's supposed to be. You're like, once you've made it, it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me. But no, like if you, and I, you know, I've always been told this, and I've read this other places, like if you serve people well, you will never have to beg for people to look at you.
Absolutely. No, that's even more important. At the end of the day, it's not about how many followers you have. It's about the level of impact in serving people and helping others. You know, that really is the important thing, you know.
That's definitely, you were right on the money on that one.
Yes.
And that's what I feel like I'm pretty fortunate in the sense that a lot of times when I make a post, I interact with the people that make comments, and I always write back, and it's always positive stuff. And I think I would rather have that. I would rather have where I'm currently at, and just people, you know, interacting with me, having that engagement is such a big part of it. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where currently I'm at. I'm able to do that. So it's been a good road.
Yes. So how did you go from, so we do an Instagram thing, and I know you have a new course out, the ultimate tech course for SLPs. How did you decide you wanted to put out a course? Like how did that whole thing come out? Because I know Jessie, she's also got a course coming out too, and y'all have like a little power couple thing going on. I love it. I'm gonna have David and Ashley on in a few weeks too. Like they're gonna be on together.
Oh, how cool! Him
yes,
and his wife?
yes, great dynamic.
Yeah. That's honestly the big part and the balance for me on the coursework stuff is been Jessie saying, "Hey, you need to look at, you know, creating a course and doing this." And so we kind of work together, and I pick up some things from her, and then I share with her some things that I learn. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about it. But I feel like just creating things on Teachers Pay Teachers and Boom Learning and things like that isn't enough for what the potential is for SLPs out there, so they can have a wide variety of digital tools and, you know, a platform of learning these things so they're confident from here on out. Like really that's the goal behind the course too, is you take the course, and now at any given moment with any given kid, you will always have activities and resources ready to go that are fun and engaging. And that's really what the whole idea is behind it, you know, rather than having to continuously say, oh my gosh, it's Monday morning, I didn't lesson plan, I've got this group of kids, I better jump on Boom Learning and buy a product and then give it to the kids. So this is totally separate from that. It's one of those things where you wake up on Monday going, oh man, I got my my overpriced Starbucks in hand, and I'm ready to get to work because no matter what happens, I've got the tools to make this fun and align with their goals. So yeah, it's really a cool thing and something different than what's out there.
So it's instead of like giving them the fish, what is the saying? You teach them how to fish, basically.
Yeah. You teach a man how to fish, and you can feed them for life. Rather than just giving them the fish, you give them the ability to fish.
Yes.
Same, you know, it's the same idea as what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. I have a really interesting question for you, especially like as we talk abundance mindset and everything. Yes. You cool with this?
Yes.
Okay. Because I love, like, and I especially love like talking business and stuff like that. How because I, not, and this is an SLP thing, this is everywhere, this sort of scarcity mindset of like, this is mine and nobody else can have my thing. And I don't want to teach anyone how to do my thing because I won't be special anymore. How, it's interesting that you decided to create a course to teach people how to do it by themselves so they don't really need to buy your stuff basically from Boom. Does that make sense? Like,
no, yeah, totally.
I'm like, I think that's a really, really cool thing, but I see that's a lot, like in anywhere in business. I see it a lot in private practice as well, with this sort of like keeping things. And this is my knowledge, and I'm going to keep my knowledge in my little box so that I'm special and nobody else can have it.
Right.
So like, can you tell us about that? Like, I just love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's an important thing too, is one of those things where collaborating with others within the same field or niche audience is far more important than to try to build the idea of, okay, that's my competition. I gotta build something different, or I gotta do this and that. That people will recognize that too. They don't like that. People like to see others. People like to see everybody collaborating and helping others. They don't like to see competition. And so, yeah, for me, it's one of those things where it's, you know what, it's genuine. It's like, hey, I don't care if you don't buy my products. That's not the goal. My goal is, what's the very end result? What's going to make me happy? People being able to feel comfortable and confident with working with their students and having the go-to tools. And if I store those in my brain, I'm not helping anybody out. I'm not serving the world. So it's like, hey, I've got all these valuable tools and resources. I want you to have them, and it's, and so that's an important thing too, because that's my fuel for growth and for moving forward as well, because things are always changing in technology. So, so there'll always be something that will come up where I'll be able to help others, but that's a bigger part of it, It's like I don't feel like I'll be living who I should be by using the tech tools just with my students and then not giving them to everybody else, or my ideas and concepts and strategies,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's a big part of it. Collaboration is far better than competition.
And it's the abundance too, because I think that also goes back to mindset, because you do not have this inward belief, whatever the heck you want to call it. You don't have this like inner belief that you giving that information to someone else means that you now have less. Like, and I think it's not a transaction that way. Like, me giving to someone doesn't mean I don't have it anymore, or I won't be able to have it anymore. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. And so the abundant mindset on that whole thing too is one of those things where my end goal is not to say, I want to make this much money. My end goal is to say, I want to make an impact on this many SLPs, right? With that, will everything else will fall into place, right? But at the beginning of this whole thing, it's going into the mindset of saying, I would really like to impact this many people. I'd really like to help this many people, and this is how I can do it, So I think that's an important reminder for myself. The big one.
Yeah. Well, and that it's okay to, and do you know Garyvee on Instagram?
Oh my gosh. I love Garyvee, but yeah, he's good. I follow Gary. Absolutely.
It's Garyvee, like VEE. Warning, he uses a little bit of profanity. So if there's children around, you may want to put some headphones in if you're listening to his stuff. But you, like, what you're saying reminds me a lot of what he says. Is he's like, he'll walk up and say, I don't care if you buy any of my stuff. Like, I'm not here to make you buy my stuff. He's like, when people do buy my stuff or buy my products or, pay for consults or whatever, that's because they believe I'm going to give them value, because I've given them value in the past, and then also there's that trust factor of like, because people can sniff that on you guys. Like,
oh, totally.
There's nothing stinkier than like a broke salesman.
We could read that like a book. I am telling you, we know Yeah, when someone's trying to shove something down our throats, and it's like, oh my gosh, we don't like that.
Oh yeah.
And especially on like, that's the whole thing with Instagram and with where we're at on marketing and social media and stuff too. It's like people will buy you and the brand. They're not buying the product, you know. That's really the idea behind my stuff as well. Is it's like, hey, sure, I can talk about some technology tools that you can use, but people want to buy it because of the ideas and the way I pitch things and the way that I can structure something and repurpose it to make it appropriate for the students and fun, you know. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I can give out a laundry list of websites and resources. That's not what people want. People want to say, hey, what's the uniqueness that Speech Dude brings, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's really where it's at too. And so that, yeah, it's the Garyvee concept, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or the Louis Vuitton bags. Like anytime I've had a discussion about like, branding or something like that, I always think Louis Vuitton. People will pay thousands of dollars. Like, and I mean, yes, is that a high quality bag? First of all, it better be. But yes, it's it's a high quality purse. But you're paying for that name. You're paying for like you attach value to that name. And what is it that has made you view that name as valuable, right? People aren't saying, Louis Vuitton's not saying, please buy our bags. Can you please buy our bag? No, they're not doing that. Like they've kind of branded themselves to be this, they've set a name for themselves, I guess.
Yeah, it's like those hydro flasks. The hydro flask is like $40. The material that's used to make those are the exact same ones that are at Costco for like $10. And you get two of them. But you're paying for that small little logo guy on there because it's a brand, and you're paying for the association, and you're paying for, a lot of things that go into it. But it's funny on that idea of the Louis Vuitton thing too, But that at the end of the day, it's the value that we get out of it. That's the important part,
Yes, yes.
So that's always a big one.
And then you as like someone who is providing it, again, like even just with this conversation with you, I can tell that that's where your focus is providing value. And at the end of the day, like that is, if that's where your focus is, people are going to read that on you. Like they're going to sniff that out like nobody's business.
No, they will. They absolutely will. That's the other thing too, is that I have a different perspective on a lot of things, but it works out so well with the population of students that I work with. So I'm able to create things and give a different perspective. It's the whole like, oh, I didn't know, or I didn't think about using that particular resource to meet that type of student. So it's really opening doors and opening the thought process for others. It's like to create, really my idea is to create an SLP that can create their own great products. Like I don't want to create the great product and then just give it. I want them to be able to create, I really truly think that's the part of a great leader is to, that's the role of a great leader. At Simon Sinek, he's like got a quote, which is like the role of a great leader is to provide the tools to make other people great leaders. It's that same type of mindset. So that's really what I want to do is, hey, I want to create the best SLP you can be.
Yes. Yes. And like lifting this idea of, what do they say? A follower is there you serve the leader, right? You serve one person. The leader has to serve all the followers. And again, like coming at it from an idea of serving and not this idea of like, I'm going to hold all of my knowledge up here. Cause I do find, especially like in a lot of these niche areas in the field, cause I get these questions a lot about with these, especially like my specific niches that I do like in my clinical practice, just about trying to find information and how sometimes it's very intimidating for them to find information. Cause sometimes they feel as if the information is hoarded a little bit. I'm trying to say this in a nice way, as opposed to, and again, as opposed to an abundance mindset. You having this information doesn't make my information worth any less,
Right. Absolutely. It's interesting too, because that's, everybody will connect with people differently. So you can hear
the exact same information given to you from one person, and you might not absorb it as much because you just don't cling to that type of person. So maybe somebody else you cling to better. So that information is going to be absorbed a lot differently, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think it's important too, is just share the knowledge. Somebody else might find it coming much more valuable from you than where it was initially discussed or shared, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes. Yes.
that's it. Yeah.
So I have to ask. So do you have like a team for Speech Dude? Like, do you have like, or is it just you?
No, it's just me. However, when it comes to getting little tasks done, such as a logo created, or such as getting an editor for copyright, or little things like that, I'll definitely outsource it. But for the most part, when it comes to my content creation, or it comes to my Instagram reel highlight covers and my a lot of my presentations and stuff, it's because I have a background in design and website design. So like my website's fully me. I haven't outsourced any of that, but there's just some tasks that I reach out to others and have them do for me. But my course coming up will probably get a little bit of support with running some little things here and there, like, you know, things that are needed for a course.
The things that are needed for a course.
Things that are needed. That definitely, yeah. But yeah, for the most part, I do it on my own.
Okay, so now I don't want to take up your entire evening because you do have a precious, precious little baby to get back to. He's so cute. Anyways, I get distracted by cute babies.
Babies are the best.
They're so fun, and they learn. Like the more I learned about babies, like how intelligent they are, even from like newborn, it's fascinating.
It's like my big discovery of 2021 thus far is one of the greatest things in life is being a dad. That's like, I never experienced it in the past. So it's like, oh, here we go. So yeah, it's been a great year.
Okay, I know everybody out there is like awing right now. I bet if you're not awing right now and you're listening, you're doing it in your head. You're just not doing it out loud. Well, and I do want to make sure you get back to your precious, precious little boy. But I do have to ask one final question. I mean, you clearly have your hands in lots of different pots. You just had a baby. Both you and Jesse have your own businesses, and you still work. You're in the school system, so right now it's summertime. So technically, you're not, going into work every day school wise. But I mean, you still have a full-time school position, correct? Or no?
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you do all of the things? And you're still smiling, you're still doing push-ups in the morning. If you had to kind of sum it up for us, how do you kind of keep, you're so busy, you keep all your hands in these different pots, but then yet, like you said earlier, your goal is to come at everything with 100%. How do you do it?
Oh my gosh, everybody has their own ways of staying organized and being able to handle multiple tasks. For me, the majority of my work and just the way my brain functions is in the morning. And so I could be far more productive by cranking out the entire day in 2 hours in the morning, because what I have found is that I have my family time when I get home from work. I want to relax. I get the kids wound up for bed, all those things. So I'd like to chunk my day. I like to think of my day as like 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. is day one, right? And then day two is like 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then day three is the rest of the day. So I like to take one day and turn it into 3 days. So that way I'm saying, hey, you know what? On day one of Monday, we're going to get everything done. We're going to lay out the whole week. And I literally have a hyper focus. I'll crank out things. But that's how my brain works. So by the time it's 1 p.m., I've already gotten so much done for the whole week. I've already kind of recorded some advanced TikToks or reels and got some emails set up or whatever it might be. But yeah, that's how I do it. I don't know if that's effective for anybody else. Like Jesse will she works like throughout the evenings. And for me, I lose focus because I have ADHD. I'm like, oh, can't focus there. I got other things to do. I got kids in the background. I got Netflix going on, whatever it is. So yeah, for me, early mornings is the ticket. You know, there's something about early morning productivity that brings the end result to be successful in the speech dude world.
The speech dude world. I like this world. I was about to say, I feel like, is there constant like elevator music going on in the background?
There needs to be.
That's what my husband says about me. That he's just like, there's got to be like some constant like ringing going on in the back of your head. And I'm like, you will never know. You won't. Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. This was freaking fabulous. You're just such a light. I totally have like a scheme going on in the back of my head to have you and Days with Dave on at the same time, so we can get like a male SLP and a male OT together. And y'all,
awesome.
Yes. And if y'all don't know Dave, go follow him on Instagram. He has so much fun and is just goofy as an OT.
I love it. Dave, man, he is the best.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to tell him that we talked about him in the podcast. He's going to be so excited.
I know. I love it. It's awesome.
Yes.
I want to say thank you so much for having me on. We got a lot of information out there and all solid stuff to help others. And that's the key.
Yes. If you were inspired by any of this, I 100% encourage you, like, go write down, I don't know, get a piece of paper, write down things that you want to accomplish, figure out what works with you in your day, like find out where your zone of genius is. If you have a side business or a speech business that you want to get started, just do it. Be Nike, just do it. And what's the worst thing that's going to happen is you fail. And remember, what is it again? Failure. You say it. I'm gonna jack it up. You say it.
Failure is fuel for growth in wolves' clothing.
That's what. Yes. Bam.
Nailed it.
Yes, we're gonna end on that. We're doing it.
I love it. Fantastic. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to hear more no fluff, getting the dang thing done stuff for myself and other real life SLPs, be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or pledge a small amount on patreon.com/speechgoods. If you found this content valuable, please share it with others so we can get this message out there. And if you haven't already, join us on Instagram. Handle is @speechgoods. See you there.